Trump says Biden NATO, Israel, Ukraine and wars. Why? As Donald Trump reclaims the U.S. presidency, the world anticipates his unconventional approaches to long-standing alliances and foreign policy stances. Known for his America First mantra, Trump's policies often veer away from traditional multilateral frameworks, challenging the status quo. His prior tenure set a precedent of reshaping the U.S.'s role in global alliances, pulling back from international commitments, and reducing what he deemed burdensome obligations for the United States. With his return, Trump's future policies, especially regarding NATO, Ukraine, and Israel, are under intense scrutiny as he signals possible shift that could redefine the global security landscape. Throughout his first presidency, Trump critiqued NATO's structure, often labeling it obsolete and arguing that the U.S. shoulders an unfair financial burden within the alliance. His frequent demands for increased contributions from NATO allies led to significant tension, yet his pressure tactics yielded some results. By 2023, most NATO members reached a 2% GDP defense target, with discussions continuing around an even higher 4% goal. Trump's push for allies to carry more weight was intended to alleviate the financial load on the U.S., but it left NATO's stability uncertain. Analysts expect that Trump will reignite these debates, potentially urging NATO members to become more self-reliant, a move that could either bolster Europe's defense capabilities or strain the alliance's cohesion if member states feel abandoned. European nations are already contemplating bolstered defense budgets and an increased military independence in response to Trump's anticipated stance on NATO. Should he follow through on prior threats to scale back U.S. involvement, NATO's collective security structure could face significant adjustments. Countries like Germany, France, and the UK have explored new defense frameworks, with potential collaborations to address security concerns independently. A potential U.S. withdrawal from NATO would require Europe to navigate security challenges without the traditional guarantees of U.S. support, a shift that could encourage the emergence of a more autonomous European defense posture. Trump's perspective on the Ukraine conflict has sparked controversy, as he's expressed intentions to mediate an end to the war. His approach contrasts sharply with NATO's firm support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, a stance that member nations like Poland and the Baltic states view as vital to European stability. Trump's perceived willingness to broker peace may imply concessions that align more with Russian interests than NATO's objectives, raising concerns within the alliance. Should Trump prioritize a rapid resolution to the Ukraine conflict, NATO's unity could be tested, as some allies may resist any solution seen as appeasing Russia. This approach could drive divisions within NATO, potentially complicating U.S.-European relations on security matters. During his 2024 campaign, Trump hinted at possible diplomatic overtures toward Moscow, a direction that unsettles NATO countries near Russia's borders. According to the Washington Post, Trump's inclination to de-escalate U.S. involvement in Ukraine could present challenges to NATO support for Kyiv, potentially altering the region's strategic dynamics. This contrasts sharply with NATO's broader mission of countering Russian influence in Eastern Europe and supporting Ukraine's self-determination. Should Trump assume a softer stance on Russia, European nations may feel pressure to strengthen their own defense capacities, fearing reduced support from the U.S. Trump's relationship with Israel has been unique among recent U.S. presidents, given his overt support for Israeli policies and actions, including the controversial decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. His administration solidified a U.S.-Israel partnership, often at the expense of Palestinian interests, which won Trump favor among certain U.S. and Israeli factions. However, his recent comments hint at a more critical view of unconditionally supporting Israeli actions, particularly in conflicts that might draw the U.S. into further Middle Eastern entanglements. Trump's evolving stance on Israel raises questions about how the U.S. will handle its support, especially as other actors like Yemen's Ansarullah movement and Hezbollah grow more assertive in the region. The New York Times reports that Trump may encourage Israel to take a more autonomous role in its regional security, while reducing America's direct involvement. This approach aligns with his broader preference for limiting U.S. military commitments abroad. Trump's policy could push Israel toward developing even stronger local alliances and increasing its defense investments, though it also risks leaving Israel vulnerable to threats from groups like Hezbollah and Ansarullah. Trump's stance could indirectly foster greater regional volatility, especially if Israel interprets it as a sign to engage more aggressively with regional adversaries.